Hi everyone. I think most of you are here, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Haskayne MBA live webinar. My name is Amanda Ramsey and I'm the admission specialist for both the MBA program and the Master of Management program here at Haskayne. I'm actually also a current student in our MBA program, so hopefully I can bring you a bit of both perspectives. All right, and here is the agenda for our webinar today. We're going to go through an overview of the MBA program and different options that exist within it. We'll go over the admissions information, and you'll also get a chance to meet our academic director, Catherine Hagerud. Not only is she the academic director for the program, she's also an instructor in the business technology management area of the program. And you guys will have some opportunities to ask her questions as well. We'll go over resources for students and next steps, and then finally we'll open up the floor to questions. So if you are thinking of a question during the presentation, please feel free to jot it down, and then at the end you'll have the opportunity to type that into the chat bar. All right, let's start with a quick overview of Calgary for those of you who may be attending this session virtually from outside of the city. Calgary is actually ranked as the 5th most livable city in the world and #1 in Canada by the Economist Intelligence Unit for 2019. The Economist does this list every year, and for the past 5 years, Calgary has been in the top 5. They base these rankings on a number of different factors, from safety, cleanliness, culture, income, affordability of housing, and many, many more. So it is quite a well-rounded criteria. So we're very proud to be near the top of the list as a great place to live, work, and study. Calgary is actually home to the most number of head offices per capita in Canada, and the second most number of head offices overall after Toronto. So it is quite a vibrant business community with a lot of great corporate opportunities for MBA graduates as well. One of the biggest perks to living in Calgary, as you can see, is the picture of the mountains there. Calgary is only an hour's drive away from the world famous Rocky Mountains. So if any of you are outdoor enthusiasts who enjoy hiking, canoeing, camping, this is a great place to be based out of. Also great to experience for families as well. The city itself is also very beautiful. The Bow River runs through it, and you can see here there's a lovely cityscape view of our downtown area. Demographically, the city is quite young and vibrant as well, with a lot of entrepreneurial activity. If you have any questions about Calgary, again, feel free to jot those down, so we will have time to answer questions about what it's like to live in Calgary as well near the end of the presentation. All right, so getting back to the MBA program, why do an MBA? As many of you are aware, more and more people nowadays have a bachelor's degree. So doing your master's degree is a great way to differentiate yourself in the job market and give yourself a competitive edge. Almost all types of companies hire MBA graduates in one capacity or another. So this is a really versatile qualification for you to go and obtain. The focuses of an MBA program are often to increase leadership capability. A lot of people coming in are looking to advance their career into management level, director level, or even C-suite positions. And this is a great way to get those skills. Next, expanding your network. The MBA program provides a great opportunity to build your network, not only within your cohort and amongst your classmates, but also with the local business community. And we try our best to connect the business community with students in the program as well. And we'll kind of explain how we go about doing that throughout the presentation. An MBA can also be a great way to pivot your career. If you're currently doing something that you're not thrilled about, it can be a good way to gain a new skill set and start doing something new. For example, one of the most common areas students like to pivot into is finance by completing the finance specialization in the program and then going off to work in that industry. But that's just one example. We do offer 8 different specializations that can help you pivot into something new, and we'll go over those in the next slide. And then finally, we are AACSB accredited. This is quite a high standard of accreditation that's held by only 5% of the world's 16,000 business schools. So we're quite proud to represent that. And that is why you might see some of our admission requirements are quite firm, and we'll be going through those later as well. All right, so a bit of a program comparison. We pride ourselves on offering some flexible options for MBA students. For those of you really wanting to dive into the program and experience it, we offer a full-time MBA program, and this is called our daytime MBA. This is also the MBA program that is suited for international students. So if you're attending this webinar as an international student, please pay close attention to the daytime MBA program information, because you wouldn't actually be eligible to apply for the evening program. That program is for domestic students only. And then we also offer an accelerated MBA program. That program is only open to business graduates of who completed their degree in Canada or the US. So if you did your business degree in India, China, or another country, unfortunately, you would not qualify for the accelerated MBA. Again, you'd be looking more so at the daytime MBA program. All right, so looking at the makeup of the daytime MBA program, the class is about 40% international and 60% domestic. Average years of work experience is usually around 6 to 8. And so this program is comprised mainly of early to mid-career professionals. If you do have a significant amount of work experience, you may wish to consider our executive MBA program, which is designed for people with 10 years work experience or more. If you have 10 years work experience or more, you can still apply to the daytime if you would like to. There's no upper limit on that. But again, the executive MBA program may be better suited to you. It's beyond the scope of this presentation, but please note that we do have an online information session for the executive MBA program on the Haskayne website if you'd like to check that out as well. All right, getting back to the daytime program, it takes about 20 months to complete in total. Classes are held during the day, and there are 14 required courses and 6 electives. And then finally, we offer 8 specializations, and you can see those listed at the bottom of the chart. These specializations are available for all the different programs, so don't feel like you'd be missing out on one of these specializations. You can do them in the evening or the accelerated program as well. We recently added 2 new specializations, one in data analytics and one in management analytics, as those are fields that are projected to have a lot of career growth over the next 5 to 10 years. And then we have some of the more classic specializations like finance, entrepreneurship, marketing, project management, and real estate. The evening MBA, as mentioned, is designed for domestic students who are working full-time and prefer to do their courses evenings and weekends. It does take a little bit longer to complete the program if you opt for this option. You can't necessarily fill up every weeknight with a 3-hour class realistically. So you can expect to spend 32 to 36 months completing the evening program. It's the same as the daytime in terms of what's required: 14 mandatory courses in a variety of different areas, and then 6 electives. For the accelerated MBA, as mentioned, this is only for graduates of US and Canadian business degree programs within the last 10 years. And if you are in that category, you won't have to do as many courses, as some of them would be repetitive to your bachelor's degree. So that one, you do 11 courses in total, 3 of which are required and 8 of which are elective. So you still have plenty of courses to use for a specialization. Okay, a little bit of information about the Haskayne MBA and what makes us different. We do try to provide a lot of specialization options for our students so they can really tailor their education to their career objectives. You may be working in a certain industry where you want to gain more information in that specialized area, or you may, as I mentioned, be wanting to pivot into something new, and the specializations do give you the opportunity to do that. As well, our program has a strong leadership focus. You will do a couple of courses that are specifically on the topic of leadership, but it's also a theme that is woven throughout all the courses. It's kind of the lens through which you might view some of the curriculum more through a manager's perspective. Another perspective in the program is that it's strongly entrepreneurial. As mentioned, Calgary is quite an entrepreneurial city, and so is our program. More and more students are thinking about potentially starting their own business one day, whether that's an online location, a physical location, or a service-based business. So we want to equip students with the skills to be able to go out and do that if they so wish. But being an entrepreneur can also be a mindset that can be valuable in the corporate environment in terms of taking initiative and bringing forth new and exciting ideas and value to the company that you're working at. So as mentioned, there is an entrepreneurial specialization at the Haskayne School of Business. We also have 2 centers on campus that are focused on this. We have the Hunter Center for Entrepreneurship and we have the Creative Destruction Lab Rockies. So if you're interested in entrepreneurship, I would highly recommend getting involved with those centers and further building your networking connections and resources in that area. We hope that these courses are going to be applicable for you to start applying concepts that work right away while you're in the program, or if you're doing the full-time program, to apply these in your first job after graduation. So we do a lot of case-based learning. We try to make the program as hands-on as possible so that you're not just reading and memorizing, you're taking concepts from class and applying them to case studies and projects. So a lot of our assignments are project-based. And we will be joined by our academic director, Catherine Higgerud, later on, and she'll be able to tell you a little bit more about that as well. Next is international opportunities. So some of these have definitely been on hold since last year and probably for the 2020 intake batch as well in terms of being able to go out on exchange opportunities. They're limited because of the coronavirus. But hopefully for the 2021 batch, some of these will be back and running. We have international exchanges all around the world and of very different lengths to make them flexible so that if you're interested in participating, you can. You can do a block week course on exchange or up to 6 weeks on exchange. So there is a lot of flexibility in there. Next is networking opportunities. We try to foster networking throughout your program so that you can make new connections and hopefully get that dream job after you graduate as well. And then finally at Haskayne, we have a very internationally diverse cohort. So it's a great opportunity to network with people from around the world. Okay. Since a lot of the audience here today is international, I wanted to focus a little bit more on the structure of the daytime program and go into this in a little bit more depth. So let's start off by talking about the first year in the program. The first year academically is quite heavy. You're going to complete 12 out of the 20 required courses in the first year. So that's 6 courses in fall and 6 courses in winter. These are all required courses that cover a broad range of business topics to give you a strong foundation. So as you can see in the chart here, some of these topics are listed: finance, entrepreneurship, accounting, marketing, organizational behavior, operations and supply chain management, data analytics, strategy. So you're going to get a chance to touch on all of these areas, which will hopefully inform a specialization choice for you as well through talking to other students, professors, and doing these classes. The specialization that you want to choose may become more clear. If you're interested in multiple different topics, you also have the option of doing a general MBA and just kind of choosing from a variety of different topics rather than just one specialization. The length of this first year is 8 months, so 4 months in the fall semester and then 4 months in the winter. During this time, in terms of extracurricular activities, we would expect that you would be connecting with the Career Center. Connecting with the Career Center is very important to do early on. It's not something you want to save for last minute. It's especially important if you're looking to perhaps do a summer internship. You want to start meeting with them right away, discussing goals and getting your resume the best that it can be and doing some practice interviews as well. It's also encouraged to start attending a lot of networking events during this time and participating in case competitions. Being a student myself, I know it can be hard to find the time for case competitions amongst your other commitments, but I really encourage you to try doing a few of these. It really helps to build your network and allows you to apply skills that you've been learning in the program into these case competitions. It's also something you can talk about in your interviews as well if you do well in your case competitions. Certainly is impressive if your team is able to win one. All right, the spring and summer semester is kind of in between your first and second year for a period of 4 months. During this time, there's an opportunity to do an internship, an international exchange if they're running, or coursework as well. So we do offer one required course in the spring, and it's optional for you to take. This one is our MGST class in managerial decision making. This is a kind of a consulting class that allows you to take concepts you've been learning from the program and apply them in a real world case where you're going to be paired up with a local Calgary company to solve one of their business problems. Again, this course is going to be offered either in spring or you can take it during your second year as well. If you're looking to do an elective, we have various electives that are offered in spring and summer, but one I definitely recommend looking at that I did myself is the Haskayne Wilderness Retreat. Especially if you love wilderness and mountains, this course actually takes place off campus in Kananaskis country, which is in the mountain foothills area of Alberta. The class focuses on leadership and sustainability and connects students with members of the Indigenous community here in Alberta. You also get the chance to really bond with your 20 or so classmates that would be going through this class with you. So it is a great opportunity to kind of broaden your horizons and have a bit of a different experience in the program. That one does fill up quickly, so you kind of have to be on the ball when registration opens if you're interested in doing that one. Going on to your second year, the course load is lighter, so that is some good news. Depending on if you did spring or summer courses, you might only have 6 courses left. If you spent all your time doing an internship, you might still have 8 classes remaining, but certainly less than the 12 you would have done in your first year. So there is more time if you do want to work at a part-time job. You have time to attend extra networking events and really focus on your job search in your second year. A lot of students who are proactive with their job search during their second year can secure a job even before graduation, which is great news. And it may not start until after you're finished, but it's a great peace of mind if you're able to find a job during that second year before you're done. You typically will have one required course left for your second year, which is your advanced leadership class, and then the rest are going to be electives. Now, if you're interested in doing specialization, pay close attention because you are going to need to use 4 of your 6 electives to go under your specialization topic. So that's very important when choosing your classes for the second year. We do have a program advisor. If you have any questions after you finish your first year about registering in classes and what you need for your specialization, you can be in contact with her. Her name is Morgan. She is very friendly and helpful. So we certainly encourage students to reach out if they need any guidance with choosing their courses. All right, I wanted to say a little bit more about networking just because it is so important during this program. About 80% of students obtain a job through a network contact rather than 20% who are just applying online with no contact. So it's really important to foster contacts in the industry that you're interested in working in and making sure you're attending all the networking events possible rather than just firing off a lot of online applications. So in terms of Haskayne alumni, this is a great place to start. We have more than 25,000 alumni across 80 different countries. They're a pretty friendly and approachable group. So sometimes we have Haskayne alumni at our in-person networking events, and then other times students reach out to them on LinkedIn if they find that they're working in an industry that they're interested in. They could reach out on LinkedIn to have a chat. So don't be shy with reaching out to alumni. They can be a really great resource for you, and usually they don't mind having a coffee chat or having at least an email exchange to give you some strong information. We also foster ties with the local business community by inviting them to a variety of events. And as mentioned, they participate in some of our classes as well by offering up some of their problems open to solve for students. We also have a BMO mentorship program at the Haskayne School of Business that you can apply for and be matched up with a mentor that has kind of a similar career trajectory as you're hoping to have. So again, something that is not required, but really highly encourage you to participate in that. A great way to build your network and get more insight into what the job market is like here in Calgary. There's also a student-run society. It's called the MBA Society. This is something that you can run for after your first year. So there's an opportunity to be a president of the MBA Society. VP External, VP Marketing, VP Communications. So that looks really great on your resume if you get one of those positions. But even if you just want to attend events, the MBA Society organizes a lot of different events, networking events, case competitions, and other things. We actually join a WhatsApp group to get notifications about what those events are. So definitely would encourage you to join the WhatsApp group and get notifications from the MBA Society and to apply for the MBA Society if you're so inclined to do so. Right, career services. So at Haskayne, we have quite comprehensive in-house career services. We do have specific career services for the MBA program. We have 3 dedicated MBA career consultants to assist you. So you're able to book one-on-one appointments with them. And as I mentioned in the previous slide, I encourage you to do this kind of right away as soon as you start the program, to meet them and discuss what your career goals and do a bit of exploration as well and kind of see what your backgrounds and interests would be well suited to. Sometimes people come into the MBA program thinking they're going to do one thing after, and they may completely change their mind after talking to the Career Center or doing certain courses or being exposed to different topics. So it's great to come in with an open mind and go ahead and meet with the MBA career consultants. They will help you with practicing interviews, resume review, and as mentioned, career exploration. We also offer Career Link, and this is a place where employers are specifically looking to hire Haskayne grads. So they will post job positions to our internal job board where only Haskayne students are able to apply for those. So that is a great place to start your job search. Maybe not the only place, but a great place to start browsing through those. So they'll post things for internships as well as positions for new grads, whether that be undergrad or graduate positions. All right, a little bit about the class profile in the MBA program. Our average GMAT score is usually anywhere from 600 to 630. If you average out the last few years, 610 is kind of a good number to settle on. The average GPA is about a 3.3 on a 4-point scale. So that's equivalent to about a B+. And average work experience over the last few years has been about 7 years in the MBA program. And that amount would be higher for our executive MBA program, as you guys may guess. We get quite a good variety of different undergraduate backgrounds, but the 3 most common are business, science, and engineering. Perhaps a little bit predictable for those 3, but we do also get some students from arts and humanities and a fair chunk from others. So that could be nurses, doctors, lawyers. So there's really all sorts of people you can meet in the program. And we do encourage a lot of diversity in terms of background. So we don't require a business degree to come into the MBA program. Some people think that's the case, but it's not true. You can have a Bachelor of Fine Arts and still come into the MBA program if you meet the admission criteria. And like I said, we encourage that diversity within the class. All right, admission requirements. So these are the minimum admission requirements. I strongly recommend exceeding them as admission to the program is considered to be quite competitive, especially for international students. As I mentioned on the previous slide, about 40% of the class is reserved for international students, and we have people from all over the world applying for those 40% of the seats. So as you can imagine, that does make admission fairly competitive. But here are the basic requirements. So you do need to have a 4-year undergraduate degree with a 3.0 GPA on a 4-point scale. You need to have at least 2 years of postgraduate work experience. So if you're a new grad who has 2 years of internship experience, that would not qualify. You do need to obtain 2 years of professional work experience after you graduated. If you are a new grad in this presentation, please note we do offer a Master of Management program also, which is designed for new grads. So you may wish to check out that program on our website. We do require a GMAT score for admission to the program, and this is a mandatory requirement. In admissions, we get a lot of emails asking for waivers, but we do not give them out. This GMAT is a mandatory requirement, and you do need at least 550 on the GMAT. And again, because admission is competitive, I do recommend scoring higher than the minimum. As you saw on the other slide, the average is 610. So if you really want to be safe, you want to get above 610. We require an English language proficiency score, even if you studied in English previously. If you choose to take the TOEFL, you need a 97 or better. And if you choose to take the IELTS, you need to take the academic version and score 7 or higher, with no subscore less than 6.0. One common question we get in admissions is, oh, I'm not from Canada, I'm not graded on a 4.0 scale. What is the requirement for me? So here I've put up a few examples of some of the common countries we get asked this from. And the Faculty of Graduate Studies does offer a handy website where you're able to go and look up the admission requirements for master's programs across the University of Calgary, which also includes the MBA program. Here at this web link. So you can click here and then you can go and select the continent that you're on and then the country, and it will show you the admission requirements. And again, I've left some of the more common ones we get up here so you guys can take a quick look and see the requirement for your country. Generally, if you don't meet these minimum master's admission requirements, I don't recommend submitting an application. As mentioned, admission is highly competitive, so you want to at least meet these or exceed them for a realistic chance of admission into the program. All right, application deadlines. So we have a few rounds for admission. As you can see, it's starting at round 2 because round 1 has already passed. Round 1's deadline is in November. And if you're applying as an international student, whether you're considering this year or next, it's very highly recommended to apply during the first round. Because as we go through the rounds, the program is getting more and more full and admission is becoming more and more competitive, where the admissions committee can kind of cherry pick the very best candidates in terms of scores. So it definitely helps if you can get your application in during round 1. If you're applying as a domestic student, you have a bit more time. Your final round is not going to be until June 1st. March 1st is the final round for international. Usually we are already full by March 1st, so the latest you should consider applying for a realistic chance of admission is often round 2, so that's January 15th. Apply early as the program can fill up before the deadline. We do rolling admissions. All right, now we're going to hear from the MBA program academic director, Catherine Hagerud. She has her MBA, CPHR, FBTM, and she's also an instructor in the business technology management area of the program. So with that, I will hand it over to Catherine.
Thanks so much, Amanda, for the introduction. Can you guys hear me okay?
Okay.
Good. Okay, so yes, Catherine, and I'm getting feedback. Are you guys getting the feedback or no? Okay. Very excited to speak with you today. And my MBA is from the University of Alberta. And then I had a career of about 25 years in industry through TELUS and Master's at Alberta Central. So, and I'm actually, okay, it is echoing. Thank you. And I don't know why it's doing that. Let me see. Is that better? Yes? Perfect. Okay, lovely. Thank you. Yeah, my laptop is, I think, on its last legs and everything is going wrong this morning. So it's been an interesting morning. So apologies for that. Thank you so much for letting me know. Thanks, Amanda, for the introduction. I have my BCom and my MBA from the University of Alberta, and I'm actually currently a doctoral student as well in Haskayne. So I am joining our 3rd cohort of DBA students that are starting in January. So I'm very excited, and I'm super excited to speak with you today. So a little bit of background about me. I had a long career in industry prior to coming to the Academy. I spent about 20 years across the 3 organizations you see there. TELUS, I was in Edmonton, Calgary, and Vancouver, and have now since joined the university and have been here for about the last 7 years. Thanks, Amanda. So a little bit about the program. I think one of the things I want you to take away from an academic perspective is we're really trying to future-proof and think through where we need to be in the future. So really with that lens, both in terms of your career and in terms of how the world is changing and the kinds of challenges organizations and societies will face going forward. So I just wrapped up, for example, a MBA course where we really looked at how technologies are going to disrupt and change social fabric and the kinds of challenges that brings. So I think this is a really great opportunity as you consider doctoral studies to, or pardon me, master studies to weave in, sort of future-proofing our societies and your careers. The program, as Amanda has mentioned, is very case-based and very group project oriented. And I like this little image, no person left behind. It's a great opportunity to learn to work well with your peers and work well with industries as well. As Amanda mentioned, we have the capstone course where you're in groups of 2, you're paired with another person and then an organization. And this really lets you focus on an interdisciplinary challenge as you've had all those core courses to weave together all those topics. And the last little piece there is really bringing the pieces together. And I like to think about a lot of MBA courses as I review outlines and look at the kinds of structure that faculty members are bringing to their courses. They're really focused on case-based learning. So you can do case competitions, as Amanda talked about, and those are sort of co-curricular or extracurricular, but right within the classroom, we're taking industry cases and bringing those to life and really putting you in the spot of the decision maker who has to make those decisions in those cases. So I think it's a really great learning model for students because it really mirrors the real world. So what we don't want, my little board Zoom guy there, for sure, this past fall semester has been an interesting challenge, of course, as we're doing a lot of things online. Well, probably pretty much everything. We had 1 or 2 electives we were able to offer based on the COVID restrictions in Alberta. We were able to offer in person. And as Amanda talked about her experience with the wilderness retreat, there are some things that are very nicely suited to being in person as opposed to online. But the online environment has also created a ton of new opportunities, I think, for our students and for our faculty to get really, really creative in using sort of a dual mode of learning, as I like to call it. So lots of asynchronous, maybe pre-recorded videos, which at first might not sound that compelling, but the feedback we're hearing from students is for items that are really sort of theory heavy based. That ability to go back and re-watch the faculty member explain a key theoretical concept actually brings some value that we maybe hadn't contemplated before. But really the goal is to blend that then with very experiential workplace integrated learning opportunities, hands-on kind of things that let you kind of bring that theory to life then in a group setting, whether that's via a synchronous classroom in Zoom, more like today's session, or when we actually can physically bring you back into the building. And hopefully soon we'll have a new building as well. So I'm sure Amanda has time for questions at the end, but super excited that you're considering us, and I'll turn it back to Amanda.
Thank you, Catherine. All right, we're almost to our question portion. There's a few more things I wanted to tell you guys about first. As an admissions professional, I get a lot of questions about immigration issues from international students. However, at the University of Calgary, the admissions professionals are not allowed to answer the immigration questions because we don't have formal training in this area, and we want to make sure that you're going to get accurate information. So the University of Calgary does have a group who is specially trained to address these immigration questions, and they're called our International Student Services. They actually help students at Haskayne and also the rest of the university as well. So they have a great website here, and I've included the link at the bottom of the slide where you can go to find FAQs on things like study visas, The slide I have up here is the FAQ section for postgraduate work permits, which again is one of the topics I get asked about a lot. So I thought this would be relevant for you guys. As you can see here, a lot of your FAQs are addressed in this menu. So I definitely recommend heading over to this website and reviewing the information. The Government of Canada also has very clear immigration information in terms of postgraduate work permits and study visas on their website as well. So I really encourage anyone who's thinking of doing their master's program in Canada to go and check out this important information. If after reviewing the FAQs, you still have questions, you can see there is an email address for ISS as well, where you can ask for clarification. Please do read through the FAQs first, as they do get a high volume of questions. So you want to make sure you're asking something that's not already covered in the FAQs. All right, I'll leave that up there for a second in case you guys want to jot that down or even take a picture of that slide with your phone, because I'm sure if you are thinking of coming as an international student, you're going to want to check out this website in addition to the program website. All right, next I wanted to let you guys know that we are going to be having another exciting virtual event. It's called our Graduate Programs Open House. So at this open house, we're going to cover information on all of our programs. So if you're sitting here today feeling like, oh, maybe I was actually better suited for the Master of Management or the Executive MBA, fear not, there is another opportunity to attend a live event. It's going to be on January 21st, 6 to 9 p.m. local Calgary time, which is in the Mountain Standard Time Zone. You'll be able to meet current students, alumni, professors, and our dean. So it's a great opportunity to connect. We are going to be having a panel discussion with the alumni, career professionals, and current students, where you'll be able to ask your questions to that group. So even if you attended this event today, I'd also recommend attending the graduate program's open house, because you'll get a chance to connect with alumni and current students and ask them your questions too. Everyone who registered for this event, you will receive an invitation to this open house pretty soon. So keep an eye open for it. And again, it is going to be covering all of our programs. So you'll be able to choose the session that you're interested in attending, whether that's Master of Management, MBA, or the Executive MBA, which we call EMBA. All right, now I'd like to open the floor to some questions. If you do have a question about your own personal circumstances, like, oh, I'm a graduate from Nigeria, I have XYZ grades and XYZ GMAT score, please send an email with your transcripts and your resume to this email address. We will respond and let you know if you're eligible for the program and kind of what your chances are looking like based on your scores. Please keep the questions today a little bit more general and applicable to all the attendees. Okay, I have a question here about the postgraduate work permit. What happened if I'm not employed during my 3 years of postgraduate work permit? Would they cancel my visa? This is a good example of a question to send to the ISS email address. So we don't have someone here from ISS today, but as mentioned, you can send your questions to their email address to find out about things like that. Another question, can we meet with MBA career consultants before being accepted into the program? Really great question. The MBA career consultants are very busy with our group of MBA students. They help students in our evening, daytime, and our executive MBA program. So they have a pretty full schedule, but we do try to offer students an opportunity to interact with the career consultants during their admission process by having events such as the virtual open house. They will be in attendance at that event. So what I would recommend is attending that and keeping an eye on our website, because we probably will have some more events through June that offer the opportunity to interact with the consultants. But unfortunately, we don't generally set up meetings between prospective students and the MBA career consultants, because we need to save their capacity for the actual students in the program. You'll be able to meet with them as soon as you start the program. All right, another really good question. Can you specialize in more than one specialization, or can we only select marketing, for example? You can only have one official specialization on your degree. So you'll use 4 of your electives for that one specialization. And then you have 2 electives left. So that's not technically enough to complete another specialization. And we never will list 2 specializations on your degree. So you could go and use your 2 classes in another topic that you're very interested in, but it's only possible to get one official specialization written on your degree.
Amanda, can I just add a little bit to that one?
Sure.
So for accelerated students, because you have 8 electives, technically it would be possible to fulfill the requirements, as Amanda suggested, for 2 specializations, but you would have to choose one to actually list on your degree. So the accelerateds have a slightly unique situation there. And if there's a follow-up to that is if there's something you're super passionate about and you really feel compelled to take 2 specializations, you can apply to take courses above and beyond the 20 courses to fulfill those, but that comes obviously with extra time and cost associated with that and a special circumstance. So it's we don't recommend it because it does add to the length and cost of the program, but the accelerated students could technically manage to fit 2 in with only 1 on the parchment.
Thank you, Catherine. That's a good point. As an accelerated student, you do have more electives because some of your required courses are exempt from your undergraduate degree. Here is another question. Can an international student apply without a GMAT score? So no, unfortunately not. As an international applicant, you do need to present a GMAT score. We also accept the GRE. Because the GRE scores the verbal and quantitative sections separately, we don't list a minimum score. Rather, we kind of plug it into a conversion tool to give us an equivalent GMAT score. So the minimum score for the GRE is a score that is equivalent to at least a 550 on the GMAT. If you're an international applicant who doesn't yet have the GMAT, it may be too late to apply for 2021. Rather, you might want to start planning writing your GMAT and aiming to apply for the very first round for the 2022 intake. All right, so there is a question here. I have a bachelor's degree from Canada. Do I still need to take the TOEFL or IELTS? Good question. If you completed a bachelor degree or a master's degree in either Canada or the US, and this applies to Canada or the US only, you may apply without an ELP score. Please be aware that your application is stronger if you do choose to include an ELP score, because most likely your score is going to be quite high if you've already done a degree in Canada or the US. Furthermore, if there are any concerns with your application, like a really low verbal score on the GMAT, or perhaps an interview that doesn't demonstrate strong English skills, you may still be asked then to present an English language proficiency score. So the short answer is yes, if you completed a degree in Canada or the US, you may apply without it, but you may still be asked to provide one depending on circumstances. Question about funding. Is there any special funding program or financial institution that you work with? At this time, we don't work with a financial institution for international funding. Most students are going to look to secure funding in the form of a loan or personal funds from their home country before coming into the program. If you're awarded a scholarship, and please keep in mind, we only award partial scholarships, so there are no full scholarships available, you're going to find out the amount you received in your offer letter. So if you're accepted to the program, you will know the amount of your scholarship before you need to accept the offer to the program. Really good question. All right, question about a bachelor degree of hospitality and tourism management in Canada. Is it eligible to apply for the accelerated MBA? There's a bit of a gray area with hospitality degrees. Sometimes the courses are very similar to what a BCom would be, and other times they're not. So I would strongly recommend sending your transcripts to the email address that's on the screen along with your resume, and then we can let you know if that degree would qualify. Unfortunately, there's not really a black and white answer for that one. business degrees can be very different. So we often do recommend that you send in your transcripts to find out which program you would qualify for. I'm about to be a permanent resident in a few weeks. However, I have international degrees and work experience, all in English. Do I still need to write an English exam? If you have your permanent residence or if you're a Canadian citizen, you may apply without ELP. Again, depending on how the rest of your application looks, you may then be asked by the admissions committee to provide it if there are any concerns, but you can certainly try to submit your application without it. Again, if you're a permanent resident or a Canadian citizen. All right, how has the pandemic affected the MBA job market? Going ahead, what's the prediction? I would say that it's still a bit early for us to know all the effects. Certainly the pandemic has made the job market more competitive. There have been layoffs. So I would say that furthering your education at this time might be a good bet to really help build your network and sharpen your skills to make you more competitive in the job market. And I think certainly it's really highlighted the importance of virtual work and technology. So if anyone's interested in the data analytics and management analytics specialization, these sorts of areas are definitely growing and in this uncertain time where we're more and more reliant on data and technology. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Catherine, from what you've been observing with any of your class.
Actually, it's interesting. I just had a partner, cybersecurity partner out in one of my classes from one of the major consulting firms here. And he indicated that they are substantially growing in Calgary in particular in terms of their cybersecurity practice. Certainly Benevity is a local Calgary startup that's growing by leaps and bounds in that sort of tech analytics space. So I think there is some growth in those markets for sure, particularly in the Calgary region.
Yeah, great. I actually watched a presentation recently from a recruitment company in Calgary, and they said that for the most part, a lot of companies are kind of looking to replace positions where there are turnover rather than necessarily adding or cutting a lot of jobs right now. So as mentioned, all of those networking activities and career activities become even more important in a time like this, where you need to kind of have your finger on the pulse with your contacts to hear about any openings that are coming up. But really good question. All right, why should one choose UCalgary and not the other universities? What makes UCalgary stand out? Good question. I'm a little biased. I'm born and raised in Calgary, and I did my undergrad and my MBA at UCalgary, so I'm a big fan. One of the advantages I think we have is that here in Calgary, we're actually the only local MBA program. So it's a little different in Toronto, where you have many reputable MBA programs kind of competing for the local market's attention. But here in Calgary, it's just us. So we have a lot of relationships built up with the Calgary business community. And so when you begin your job search, there's a lot of recognition within the city of what a Haskayne grad is. And also, as mentioned throughout the presentation, I think all the interaction that we do with the business community is really helpful for students to, hone the skills that employers are actually looking for and begin to make those connections. I'd also say that we're very hands-on at UCalgary. There are a lot of discussions. It's not just kind of a talking head at the front of the classroom, it's more interactive. And people really appreciate how approachable our faculty is. I think you guys can probably get that sense from Catherine. She's very friendly, she's very approachable. She loves to have conversations with students. And that's quite representative of our faculty here. Catherine, I don't know if you have anything you want to add.
I think, yeah, so I would echo your comments, Mint. I think the other thing that we've been really blessed with is from a philanthropy perspective, right? We've had really large donations to both the Haskayne School of Business and the university. So I'm thinking about the Hunter Hub and the Hunter Center and some of those great, sort of donations that have really brought forward some centers that make it really interesting for students to connect with the community or be entrepreneurial. So I think those are just all great things about Calgary that are maybe a little bit unique that you don't see in other cities.
Yeah, really great point. Another thing I forgot to mention is that our classes are quite small. So there's a lot of opportunity to get to know your classmates really well and to get to know your faculty really well. As a first year student in the program, you'd have a class size of usually about 50 students. And then as you go into your electives, those can get significantly smaller, anywhere from 20 to 30 students. So it definitely provides time for discussions and a lot of interaction that you might not get in a really large 100-person class. All right, what does a typical structure look like for the accelerated MBA program and for the evening program? So for the evening program, the number of electives and required courses is the same. So you have 14 required courses and 6 electives in the evening program. Most students in the evening program are going to do about 3 classes per semester. They might choose a class on Tuesday night, a class on Thursday night, and then they might have a Saturday class. So being that you're doing fewer classes, it does take a bit longer to go through the program. But in terms of all the specializations in the classes I mentioned, those are going to be the same. They're just going to be done over a longer period of time in the evenings. The makeup of your class for your required classes is also going to look a little bit differently, be made up of all domestic students or permanent residents, and most of which who are working full-time during the day. So you might encounter a bit of different classmates with a busier schedules in the evening program. For the accelerated program, instead of doing 20 classes, you're only doing 11 classes. 3 of those classes are going to be required, and then you have 8 electives. So you have fewer required because you would have covered some of those required classes in your undergrad. So you get the chance to do more electives. As Catherine was saying, you can technically fulfill the requirements for 2 specializations, but only 1 will be listed on your degree. So you have a little bit more flexibility. For the accelerated program, most of your classes are going to be available in the evening or weekend formats. We also kick off the semesters at Haskayne with a block week option, so students can opt to go into that if they prefer to finish a class in 1 week. Block weeks are on 8:30 to 4:30, Monday to Friday. So you start off with that. You finish that whole class during that week, which I know sounds a bit intimidating. I was very nervous to take my first block week, but I actually ended up really enjoying it because you aren't able to procrastinate and you're able to focus on just that one topic. So then I started to look forward to block weeks and tried to add more and more of them to my schedule because it does help you to finish a little bit quicker if you're an evening or an accelerated student. Okay, for Canadian applicants, are there any circumstances where GMAT is exempt? So GMAT is never automatically exempt. As mentioned, if you're an international student, you absolutely need to have the GMAT. If you're a Canadian applicant who has a master's degree or a PhD with some quantitative elements in it, so say you did a master's in engineering, we may consider your application without the GMAT because you already have master's level education in more quantitative topics. But I would definitely recommend reaching out to this email address to get a better idea of that. Even if you apply without the GMAT, the admissions committee may still ask for it. So it's never really a guarantee. And again, this is only realistically an option for domestic applicants because the admission for international is so competitive, and the GMAT is one of the key factors we use to differentiate international applicants. Where can we find more information on each of the specializations? So there is more information on our website about the specializations, and if you want even more specifics than that, please send an email to this email address with the top couple of specializations that you're looking into, and we can send you more information on those in terms of what types of courses would be required. I always advise students not to stress too much about the specializations during their admission process. You don't have to choose one when you're applying for the program. We don't expect you to know which one you want to do. As you go through your first year in the program, it's going to become more clear which specialization might be most relevant to you. And it's when you're choosing your second year classes is when you're kind of selecting your specialization. So you don't have to apply to get into a specialization. You just have to make sure you're doing your 4 required classes for that specialization. And then once you're done those, you'll fill out a form to declare your specialization on your degree. So again, don't feel stressed out about those coming in. You're going to have lots of time to decide by talking to the Career Center, other students, and by going through all your first year classes, which are going to give you exposure to most of those topics in one way or another. All right. What type of companies recruit students for summer placements, internships, as well as jobs after graduation? It's a pretty wide variety. As mentioned, Calgary is home to a lot of head offices, so there are a lot of opportunities. So it's often not just one or two companies that hire Haskayne grads. There are so many throughout the city that do. Some of the bigger ones you guys might be familiar with. Catherine mentioned TELUS in her presentation. They're a large communications company that have hired our graduates in the past. We actually have Canada's second largest airline headquartered here in Calgary, which is WestJet. They have hired MBA graduates in the past. And then one of the popular areas for MBA students to go into after graduating is consulting. So we have the big four firms hiring a lot of students, and then smaller firms hiring students as well. The financial sector is also a big group that hires students. There's the agriculture industry here in Calgary, which is quite strong as well. And then, as Catherine mentioned, there are a lot of tech companies that are hiring graduates more and more often, especially now that we have those two new specializations as well. So definitely lots of opportunities. We've had students go on to pursue their own company, so more entrepreneurial pursuits as well. Hopefully that gives you kind of a general idea.
Amanda, if I can just jump into, in terms of like summer placements, there's a lot of opportunities with startup and venture organizations within the city. There's a lot of different areas for this in social enterprise as well. So there's definitely a lot of summer internship opportunities in those companies that Amanda mentioned, as well as some others.
Thank you, Natalie. All right, we have a question about cost. I was avoiding this one a little bit simply because the University of Calgary has not released tuition rates for 2021 yet. So it's impossible for me to tell you what the exact cost of the MBA program will look like for the next intake. But to give you guys a rough idea, last year the tuition for international students was $3,312 per course, and there are 20 courses. Again, that's the international rate. For domestic students, the tuition was about $1,785 per course. If you're doing accelerated, that's 11 courses. If you're doing the evening MBA, that is also 20 courses. Again, big disclaimer, the 2021 rates have not been released yet, so that amount is definitely subject to change, but hopefully that gives you a very rough idea. We do have those rates posted on our website in the graduate calendar section of the University of Calgary website. So if anyone is curious, I can direct you to those links if you send me an email to the MBA address listed on the screen. I see a question here about someone with a master's and a bachelor's and if the GMAT would be waived. That is a good example of a question to please send to this email address on the screen. If you want a pre-assessment, please send your transcripts and your resume to that address on the screen. We get back to people very, very quickly, so feel free to send an email with a bit more of your personal information, and we're happy to give you a good idea of your eligibility. I see a question about COVID here. COVID has been a drawback for students wanting to pursue a degree. How is the situation now, and how is it going to shape once the MBA is achieved? Fortunately, I don't have a crystal ball in front of me, so I'm not sure what the future holds. Currently, this fall semester has been online classes for University of Calgary students. The university has announced that winter classes will also be online. We don't yet know how fall 2021 courses will be delivered. It's too soon to make a call. The vaccine is projected to start rolling out this spring in Canada. So hopefully that improves the future outlook for students being able to come back in person, but it is too late for us to say with, or sorry, it's too early for us to say with any certainty how that's going to look. Hopefully we're going to see a big rebound in the economy as well with more hiring, but that's definitely not something that we're able to tell you with any concrete detail right now.
Amanda, I can maybe address the specialization on project management one really quickly, just at a super high level. So there are 4 courses required for the project management specialization. The way they're currently structured is to focus on the professional exam. The PMP exam is the way they have been historically structured. Now, obviously that can change going forward, but then of course, if you have a PMP designation, that is industry agnostic. So you could work in any industry with that designation.
Great. I think we'll give 2 more minutes to get your questions in. If there aren't any other ones, we'll call it a day. Again, there are more ways to connect with us. Certainly send us an email or think about attending our graduate programs open house on January 21st. Question here, if I have a PMP, do I need to provide the GMAT? Yes. So we don't consider the PMP to be a master's degree, so you would still need to write the GMAT. Another thing to note about the GMAT is it's actually half of the criteria we use to determine scholarships for the program. So you have a better chance of being awarded a scholarship with a strong GMAT score. So hopefully that motivates you guys to write the GMAT and do well. It's also a really great warm-up for an MBA program. Studying and preparing for it, you can definitely come into the program more confident once you've written the GMAT and scored well. Hopefully you can brag to your fellow classmates about how great you did on it.
I would, just like to say, Amanda, too, the GMAT is not that scary. There are a lot of great resources on how to take the GMAT. I took it after several years of work and not being in school and not being great at math. I did really well after taking some preliminary study courses on how to do it. So I encourage you to take it. It is a confidence booster as well. So don't let that scare you writing the GMAT.
Thank you, Natalie. Really good point. And if you guys are curious about what the GMAT is like, GMAT has a mini quiz. It's only 8 questions. So you can actually go and do it to get an idea of what to expect. The easiest way to find it is to simply type in GMAT mini quiz into Google. It'll give you 4 of the verbal questions and 4 of the quantitative. So you get a good idea of kind of what to expect on that. There's a really good question in the chat. Do we require a WES evaluation for a bachelor's degree? I know these are pretty common for international degrees, but we don't actually require them. We look up accreditation for each country to make sure that your degree is accredited in the country that it's from. So we don't actually use a WES evaluation. So don't pay the money to go and get one just for us, because we don't actually use it or require it in any way. Really good question. All right, if there are no other questions, I think we'll call it a day. Again, guys, please reach out to the email address on the screen if you have any questions about your own personal circumstances and need some guidance. We're happy to help. Thank you so much for attending today. And thank you, Catherine, for joining us.
Thanks, Amanda, for inviting me.